Coming up on this edition of the Black Vault Radio, popular YouTube host and field investigator Tim Doyle steps into the vault. With extensive experience in the field outside of Area 51, Tim shares details about his investigations around the top secret base, and whether or not the joke-turned-crusade to storm Area 51 is even possible.
The military knows everything you're doing, so you've got to have some element of surprise too. You can't just let them know. So we arrived in the middle of the night. When we were camping there once, we found like this quartz rock that was so weirdly melted. It literally like looks like a rose. And they're going to start questioning why people have been telling them for so many years that they could just go to Area 51 and see these things. Like seriously, they can't even go to work without having someone there like ready to film and expose something that simple.
All that and much more. So stay tuned. The Black Vault Radio is about to begin. More than 20 years ago, I began a journey. My quest for the truth. My name is John Greenewald, and I have hammered the United States government with Freedom of Information Act requests trying to get answers. I have more than 2 million pages of declassified documents for you to download at theblackvault.com. Now, I attempt to dive even deeper and talk to some of the most brilliant minds on this planet. No government secret is off limits, and no question is off the table. All I aim for is the truth. This is the Black Vault Radio. That's right, everybody. This is the Black Vault Radio. I am your host, John Greenewald Jr. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and making this your podcast and radio show of choice. With all of those options out there, I really do appreciate it. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I think you're going to enjoy this. We're going to be talking about Area 51, obviously a very hot topic right now, and that is due in large part to a Facebook post, or an event, I should say, that was started really by a kid, George Knapp at KLAS television, CBS affiliate in Las Vegas. Tracked the kid down. He seems like a pretty young man, and it started as a joke and just kind of blew up. Well, now as of the recording of this, there are well over 1.6 million people that have said they're quote-unquote going, with well over another million that says that they are interested. Well, like I said, it did start off as a joke, but I guarantee out of those 1.6 plus million people that say they're going to go, there's probably a handful of people that actually are going to go, that they have this crazy idea that they're going to storm Area 51. Now, we'll see how many people actually go and show up, and then on top of that, how many people are actually going to just take off running and see how far they can get. But apparently they want to, quote, see them aliens, unquote. That is what the Facebook event says, that they want to see aliens. Well, that's all pretty silly, to be blatantly honest with you, for a multitude of reasons. But I thought it would be fun to have a researcher that actually physically, literally has boots on the ground at Area 51, or has done so quite a few times in the past. His name is Mr. Tim Doyle. He runs a online series and investigative group called UFO Seekers. Now, if you're not familiar with Tim, I would definitely check it out. I've linked his channel and website on the show notes page at www.theblackvault.com/show notes. He's going to talk about Area 51 and his experiences out there. In fact, he has about just shy of 250,000 people on his YouTube channel that subscribe due to the high quality of not only his information, but his videos. He's highly skilled at putting these things together, very much like a high budget television series. And he's out there with his partner Tracy in the field, and he's just doing research, investigation, really boots on the ground. And I respect that, because so many people you hear talking about Area 51, they're sitting at their chair, they're Googling, they may read a book or an article or something, and then all of a sudden they're an expert. Well, Tim is out there, and he's researching this, and I'm going to ask him not only what the base is all about and what his experiences are, but what he thinks about this cockamamie idea of storming a highly secure military facility. Because again, even though it's a joke to a lot of people, I bet there are a couple that think, hey, who cares if it's a joke? I'm going, and I'm taking off running, and I'm taking my scooter, and I'm taking my four-wheel drive truck, and I'm going to go and see how far I can get. Well, let's see what Tim thinks. So a couple announcements before we get going, and a few that I'm actually really excited about. First and foremost, I've teased this in the past. Well, it's time to tell you, simply because I am rapidly approaching my due date for my second book. Now, not to do a shameless plug there, but I have to thank you all for the overwhelming support for book number 1. That's Inside the Black Vault. The response to that in the pre-order stage was incredible. I was incredibly humbled by it simply because I didn't expect it. I don't know what the publishing company, Rowman and Littlefield, expected, but they were clearly happy based on your support of that book. And so just after the book was released, secretly, I was approached to write a second one based on the success of the first. So I want to thank you all for that and really tell you how much I appreciate that support, because I've spoken about the support of the publishing company for this type of book on UFOs. That's rare this day and age, where you have a reputable publishing company that really seriously backs a UFO book. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's so nice to see it. And I have been very thankful to that. But now I can finally talk about it on how much I am thankful to all of you, which paved the way for book number 2. Now, let me tell you something. I can't tell you what it's about yet because, well, I just don't know if I can, to be honest with you. So I don't want to blow it. But I can tell you this. It's not a UFO book. It's something else. And it's one that I'm actually, quite possibly, even more excited about. So I'll let you know what it's all about in the coming weeks. I just got to clear, the actual topic here as we approach, because the book's not delivered yet. So until that date, or until I get clearance, I'm going to keep it a secret. So you guys are going to have to wait and see what that is all about for book number 2. But it is, again, not a UFO book. It is something else entirely, but obviously around what I do with the Black Vault. And it is something that I can't wait to tell you all about. The release date is not set. However, my delivery dates are very much similar to my previous. And so just using simple math, I think the release date will approximately be about April of 2020. But as that date is set more in stone, I will let you know. So that is my first big announcement. My second one is something I'm really excited about. Now, this episode's going to drop just shortly before my first scheduled live stream of the Black Vault Radio. Now, you are listening to episode number 36. Tim Doyle is coming on to talk about Area 51. This stream is episode 0. Now, what the heck is that? Well, episode 0 is what's called an Ask Me Anything, or an AMA. And what that means is that you can literally ask me anything live on the air. It's streaming on YouTube. And in the last few weeks, I told you I was working on some stuff. Well, I've got everything set up where you can call in on a toll-free line. And if there's a lot of international guests that are listening in, by all means, let me know. I have a international number for you. It's not toll-free, but if you're interested in calling, I have one too. I'll be giving it out. It is today, July 19th, 2019, when this episode drops, at 4:00 p.m. Pacific time. And, well, I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Since you're listening to this podcast and radio show, I'm going to start it early. So there's going to be some early bird surprises in there. So 4:00 is the official start. Don't worry. You won't miss out on anything if you can't make it till 4. But I am probably going to start that stream a little bit early, have some fun, and have a few surprises, like I said, throughout it. Now, what is it? Quite simply, in addition to the AMA or the Ask Me Anything, it's kind of a sneak peek at what I plan to do for my third announcement in this episode, which is very reluctantly, because I have mixed feelings about this, but based on your support and writing in and wanting to help, the Black Vault's getting very expensive to run. I just had to bring up another dedicated server. Now that makes, I have 3 servers now that run the Black Vault. In June of 2019, if you could believe it, about 300,000 people logged into those 3 servers and downloaded 19 million files from theblackvault.com. That's overwhelming to me. I never thought that this site would get that big, but it has. And so with that, I want to take the next step. I want to do more. In addition to the live stream, I want to do really cool videos for you, which quite a few are already planned and even being worked on. But in order to do that, I've resigned to the fact that I can't do it solo anymore. And for those that are interested in helping, it's not mandatory, but for those who are interested in helping, it's sorely needed. All 100% of anything that comes into a Patreon page, which is brand new, and again, I started it a little bit reluctantly, but it's now available for you to, again, it's an option to support the Black Vault at various levels. Even the basic $1 a month level will get you access to a special private live stream at least once a month that is very similar to what we're going to be doing today that's public. It's going to be much, much smaller. And so it'll allow me to really kind of connect with you guys that are supporting the site and so on. It's my very small token of thanks to your gigantic token of gratitude, because every dollar helps. And 100% of those proceeds, by the way, they go right back into the Black Vault. It helps with the dedicated servers. It's going to help me figure out how to do some of these more edited videos. I know a lot of people that I've worked with in television that I know can help me with certain things, but I can't really do friend favors, the whole way. And I'm going to have to obviously hire and contract a few people, because I don't know how to do some of this stuff when it comes to the creative graphics work. But it all goes back into the Black Vault, because I want to make sure that you guys get the highest quality end result that I can give you. And today I might even give you a sneak peek. And if you've got some questions about it, hey, by all means, log in there, put them in the chat, and call in on the toll-free line, whatever you want. I'll make sure that, I get to your questions. If you're interested in that, you can check out the different levels, because there are different levels and they're changing. I'm taking your feedback, what you think is cool, what you don't, because every level has kind of different perks. Now, I'm a big advocate for freedom of information. So I don't put anything under a paywall or behind a paywall, and I'm not going to start now. But there is going to be extra stuff, extra perks, extra benefits. But again, I am an advocate for the Freedom of Information Act and the freedom to that information. So that's where that reluctancy comes from, because I don't want people to think that I'm putting everything behind a paywall now. I'm not. So if you're interested in maybe checking that out and helping me out, I can't thank you enough. You can go to www.patreon.com/The Black Vault. You'll be able to see all those different levels there and what you get. And again, they're more tokens as thank yous. I'm not saying that you are buying into something of incredibly high value in return, meaning you're getting a golden statue if you come in at the second level or anything. So it is more symbolic. It's more of a token, but it is the best that I thought of for you guys. And if you do have any ideas, by all means, let me know. Now, that being said, the YouTube live stream, like I said, at 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific today, the day that it is dropped, that if this episode is dropping, you will be able to see that in the show notes page at www.theblackvault.com/show notes. There is episode 36 there at the top. If you're listening to this well past the date, you'll still be able to watch the video, maybe just not live. But it's all there on the show notes page. All right, so those are my fun announcements. Let's get to Tim Doyle coming up to talk about Area 51 and his experiences around that top secret military base. Stay tuned. On this episode's TBV Dialogue segment, I welcome Mr. Tim Doyle. Tim is the lead investigator and YouTube host for UFO Seekers, a private UFO and alien investigation company located in Bakersfield, California. The company is operated by Tim and his partner Tracy. Since 2016, the two of them have traveled nearly 100,000 road miles throughout the southwestern U.S. They watch the sky for UFO activity at places like Roswell, Area 51, Edwards Air Force Base, Giant Rock, the Sierra Nevada mountains, and many more places. After returning from locations in the field, their work is delivered to followers through their UFO Seekers YouTube channel in a long-form video format. UFO Seekers has over 240,000 subscribers on YouTube, and one of their Area 51 videos has amassed almost 6 million views. Let me welcome to the show Mr. Tim Doyle.
Hey, John. Thanks for having me on. It's really an honor.
You know what? I appreciate that, and I know I kind of threw a short notice on you, but you really came through for me, and I appreciate it. And the reason why I wanted to get you on sooner than later is obviously Area 51 is a very hot topic right now, and a lot of people are talking about it. But one thing that I've noticed, the majority of people that are talking about it have either never been there and have really never adventured around it, and you have. And so that's why I really wanted to talk to someone with your expertise and background that literally is boots on the ground looking at this base to see how silly this idea that's been floated around, although it is a joke or started as a joke, I know that some people are taking it seriously. So we'll get into all of that, but I want to first start with your background on UFO Seekers, because you have a heck of a channel, and rightfully so. You do some high quality stuff, not only in the field, but in the edit bay when you put these videos on. So let me ask you, how'd you get started with UFO Seekers?
Yeah, honestly, I got a new girlfriend, and one of the things we like to do, we live here in Bakersfield, California, which is only about 45 minutes from the Mojave Desert and Edwards Air Force Base, the Air Force's Flight Test Center, and also one of their production plants. Well, when we first met, one of the things we like to do was look at the stars and astronomy. And being located where we're at under the R2508 military airspace complex in between Vandenberg and Edwards, there was always weird weather balloon delivery system tests or rocket tests coming from Vandenberg, like interceptor missiles. Also from Edwards, we get traffic headed up to Lemoore Naval Air Station. And of course, the Sierra Nevada mountains, which is just about 15 minutes from us, is one of the low-flying test areas. So in our travels of going out just to watch the stars in the desert where it's quiet, there's a dark sky. Of course, we're about an hour and a half from Death Valley. We started seeing weird things, and having a marketing background and also a drone photography background. I used to shoot B-roll for like car dealers in the mountains, and I would chase cars with drones and stuff like that, really on the forefront of when drones were coming out.
Wow.
And that's one thing led to another, and we just picked up some video cameras and took them out with us, and we decided one day, hey, why don't we throw these on YouTube? And I once had a friend who had a very popular YouTube channel down in Southern California, and so I did have some experience on the understanding, or what you can put up or how to make yourself popular. And all of a sudden it spread worldwide, and half of our audience is outside of the United States. So we're very popular in the UK and Australia. And I really believe that one of the things that set us apart was us not just resharing third-party content, but it was about getting out into the field, and both of us not being from the UFO community, I think gave us a different perspective.
Yeah.
Of course, we were really naive when we began, and everything we saw, was inherently a UFO, and it's really progressed as we've been out on the road. But too, in my past, I grew up in the Lancaster-Palmdale area, and my own father worked at the Plant 42 Air Force production plant for Rockwell Collins. Mm-hmm. And so when I was growing up, I did have experiences with the stealth aircraft flying over our house, because we lived in between Edwards and Plant 42. So I do have like an aviation background, and people in my family who do have military experience. For instance, my great uncle was actually a rear admiral and worked in the administration for the Naval Reserves. And I did have another a family member who worked for the Treasury Department in a very special job. So I do have military family members and come from a very rational perspective on looking at a lot of these things. And so that's what people get to see in our videos. They get to actually go to the locations and see different camera angles, and then just spend the night looking up at the sky and trying to see if we can observe what people reported and what people say may exist out there. And it's not about us trying to disprove or prove anything. It's literally just about taking people's reports seriously and just spending that field researcher time in the field, using video equipment or photography equipment, and over time, hopefully, reinforcing what people see. And, I really believe that when UFO seekers started, you could look at like satellite videos. And in fact, Dr. Greer was very, very good at popularizing some satellite video that he had inside of some content that he shared. And I really think that we've been able to take down a lot of hype around certain sightings. So in the beginning, we spent a lot of time on rocket launches and really diffused the valuability of people to perceive those as UFO objects by bringing people the real content from a UFO channel, but presenting it in just a legitimate way, not trying to create any opinion around the story. So I think when it comes to like satellite observations, space object observations, and rocket launches, that we've really been integral in devaluing those for people who would try to create hoaxes. But at the same time, we have captured strange objects. So once we were in the Sierra Nevada mountains, we were sky watching on Sherman Peak, looking down towards Johnsondale, and we had been observing military craft all day. Of course, they low fly and head towards Mount Whitney from Lake Isabella. And as they were finishing up late in the afternoon, just randomly in a group of about 2,000 pictures we took of the landscape, we managed to capture some type of spherical object in rapid shot picture. So the spherical object was coming down out of the sky in a reverse direction that the military aircraft would fly. Of course, it was after the military aircraft were done low flying in the canyons, and this object was flying in the opposite direction. And in a matter of 1 second, had moved in two pictures from the sky down a little bit towards the mountains, and then finally disappeared into a canyon. And the object actually like changed shape. In the beginning, it looked like something like a spherical cloud with a little red eyeball. And then in the second picture, it was a gray spherical object with a horizontal black line through it, almost like it was two pieces of a sphere put together with a red eyeball that could like go 360 degrees around it where this black line was. The strangest thing we've ever seen. So we definitely know from people's reports and stories we've heard and people we've met that things do occur and there are strange objects out there. But we really try to reinforce through our work to help people not just jump to the alien conclusion right off the bat. And of course, we all know that aliens more than likely or some form of alien life exists out in the universe or out in our solar system, like a microbial, or a bacteria, maybe some small form of life. But as far as intelligent life, there may be it out there, and nobody is denying that. But we're really interested if they're visiting Earth. And I think that's a completely separate question that sometimes gets diluted. And especially it's when we first started and the videos started getting popular, there was this feeling, hey, maybe we could be like a Ghost Adventures type show. They've done really good at bringing some good work to the field of ghost investigations. But the true reality of it was when it comes to like ghosts or a Bigfoot or spirituality, telekinesis, when you're investigating those things, there isn't necessarily like secret private contractors who are developing those things and testing them right over your house. So if you're going to like investigate a ghost, more than likely you have a specific location. We know that someone has experienced something in this specific location, and more than likely what it may look like or how to detect this thing. And when you do, there isn't a secret military agency who was hiding in the closet making a secret ghost program and testing it for military purposes. And when it comes to UFOs, every military base has its own installation commander who has its own secrets, and they're under their own branch of government, and they rent out facilities to private contractors who have their own secrets, who have their own subcontractors, who have their own secrets. And so there's so many different facets of program development, from space to aircraft to drones to balloon delivery systems like Project Loon, where there's these objects out there which may come off as a UFO. And I think there's just so much hype sometimes that people are convinced to just jump straight to alien conclusion. And I think it really hurts individuals' rationale when they're trying, to communicate with other people about their experiences. So our work that we do is mostly focused on just helping people know what's out there.
So when you and Tracy first started this, did you aim to just quote unquote debunk with no expectation of finding UFOs? Did that just come along with it, or was that your intent as well?
There was definitely never an intent, and still isn't. I think there's things that are true and things that aren't, but there's just a lot of claims, and I think that claims should just have evidence to back them up. For instance, let's just take for an example the Bob Lazar story. Okay, let's just assume that those were American aircraft, because he did see American flags on the 9 craft that he saw. So let's just assume that those were American aircraft, and separately he was given a handout of disinformation which said they were from Zeta Reticuli. And so when this individual comes out of the military facility, the number one promoted aspect of the story is the fact they're from another planet. And so, the most verifiable aspect of it would be that these were American aircraft, and a leap above it, would be that claim that they were from somewhere else. But, obviously it's kind of stuff that gets into the weeds, I think, and bores people. But people want to know what really is going on out there. So whether or not someone wants to say or claim, hey, you're a debunker or whatever, I never even knew what that word meant until I started posting these videos under a channel called UFO Seekers, and all of a sudden I get a stereotype name like that. Mm-hmm. But the videos are nothing more than us going to the locations where these things are happening. So if people want to find out what really happens out there, they can watch the videos. And I would just press on them that when strange or unknown things happen, it is way more uncommon than is perceived out on the internet. It would seem like a daily occurrence. And I just promise people out there, after being out in the field so much, it isn't. And if you do get to experience something or see something, you're very lucky. And in fact, I really thought that when we caught something, it would be promoted by quote unquote a UFO community. So one night, me and Tracy were out sky watching. We were in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It was about 1:00 in the morning. We only had an optical video camera, so just a regular video camera. We were sky watching, looking west, which would be towards the ocean if you could go over the mountains. But we were looking almost into the valley next to the Kern River. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, towards Los Angeles, we see a huge orange fireball originating out of the dark sky. All of a sudden, there's this huge fireball. I grabbed the video camera, and next thing, this fireball, which we observed for about 2 to 3 minutes, this fireball turned into about a 2-mile-long spread of debris and actually went from the Pacific Ocean past Los Angeles. So we were seeing this object over 100 miles away. And that's because I got a second video from it from an individual in Los Angeles who actually witnessed it the same night. This object then finally disappeared over Visalia, Sacramento, Fresno area. And so when I posted the video, hey, we captured this unknown burning object breaking up in the atmosphere, and I actually got in contact with a local meteorologist. He told me it was a falling star. Then when I posted it on the internet, it didn't get any traction, and the local media didn't report about it. The only time it came up was 3 days later. A farmer in Hanford, which is between us here in Bakersfield and where we were sky watching, is about halfway in between us and Fresno, found a piece of this object, which was a satellite, on a farm. And Vandenberg Air Force Base was called out, and Vandenberg Air Force Base came and picked up this piece, and our local news station, 17 KGT, reported the debris being found, had a picture of the object, and come to find out it was actually an Iridium satellite, SV-70, which was being deorbited because the old Iridium satellite network is being decommissioned. In fact, I believe there's only one left. And that's a big story no one's talking about, is that Iridium flares are disappearing because those old Iridium flare satellites are actually being retired. And I believe there's only one left because that's why they launched all the new Iridium satellites with the SpaceX. And so we actually are, as far as I know, one of the only people in the entire world who have captured a satellite being deorbited like that. But I couldn't for the life of me get someone to share it or someone to look at it. And I think that just comes with being a UFO organization has such a stigma to it, simply because so many celebrities will jump to certain conclusions. And it just really hurts the serious researchers who are trying to bring people real things. So Tracy and I captured a satellite with batteries, more than likely fuel in it, solar panels being deorbited over California, and pieces of these objects falling onto the ground where people live, and no one cares. And simply because we have UFO in front of our name, if we were airplane seekers, my video would go viral on that because everyone would take it serious. So it's just become a real big aspect of my work to really bring back, when I was a young kid, what I really felt, that MUFON reputation. And I really, would love to work with an organization like MUFON, who I have a lot of respect for, and be more of a sky watching field investigator for them, not someone who necessarily is just going to meet with witnesses or get stories. Someone who's just spending time in the field, dealing with animals, bugs, and putting in the hard work to capture those objects. Because if Tracy and I didn't go out every single night, we wouldn't be there to capture something like that. And that's the work that it takes.
Let me ask you real quick, though, just to kind of play devil's advocate, because I don't necessarily disagree with the stigma behind having UFO in a name like that. But to play devil's advocate, do you think that since it was explainable, I mean, it's still cool footage in my opinion, but since it's explainable, and this is the sad state of UFO research when it comes to the media, that's why they weren't interested? If it didn't have the trail of debris and give obvious signatures that it probably was a satellite, which you later determined it was, if you had like a saucer of some kind, do you think that the media would then pay attention regardless of your name?
No, I think a lot of the times the media is paid to promote certain things. I mean, for instance, the media says they're about climate change and environmentalism. Well, I just showed them the government deorbiting something and burning it up in the atmosphere over a population, and nobody bats an eye. So I think I have just started to see double standards that exist. And if that's what it takes to be popular, is to have that unexplained thing and then promote it based on the hype of its unexplainability. I mean, think about it, John. There is no reason, John, when looking at something that's unexplained in the sky, to jump to a conclusion that is alien of origin. The only reason any individual jumps straight to alien origin is because of what television has told them. They don't jump to military origin. They don't jump to foreign origin. I mean, and that's one of the most scariest aspects. If we have government who thinks that same way, they're just going to fly our defense assets up and play games with things and not take it serious. And we're really trying to bring that serious aspect to it. And however people take it, they take it, John. That's not my prerogative, and it's definitely not about being popular.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, though, you are popular in the sense that you've got over 240, near 250,000 people that tune into your YouTube channel. In any standard, that's awesome. That's a great achievement. So congrats to you. But especially with serious UFO quote unquote channels. I don't know if you like that label or not, but as being a UFO channel, so I don't mean any disrespect by it. But
and I do, John, and your audience should know. UFO Seekers is the only channel in the world on YouTube that has UFO in the title and is a verified channel with the blue check mark from YouTube. We're the only one that UFO Seekers, we're the only one with UFO title or a UFO term in the title that's verified with YouTube, because YouTube can see from our work, because they're doing manual reviews on this thing. I mean, we just got our award for reaching the 100,000 subscribers. YouTube sent us our silver play button. But I mean, even IMDb, the database for Hollywood shows, allowed the first 3 seasons of UFO Seekers on YouTube into the database. So even when you go look up, your favorite TV show on imdb.com, UFO Seekers is on there and it lists our first 3 seasons. So that's, we also understand the entertainment value of creating a good product. Mm-hmm. I mean, if someone just wants to go look and take one camera with one view and one talking, they're going to get an audience that's representative of them. So there's always an aspect of marketing where you got to create a quality product. And I spend weeks reviewing footage, editing footage, putting it together, having music composers actually sending me music. So it's definitely not, something where we were just running it out of a single room. It's something that we took deathly serious and invested $50,000 of our own money into the project, between equipment or buying music or buying, software. Mm-hmm. I think just our camera equipment alone, we spent roughly $15,000. Wow. So well, and it's not funding coming from someone else. The funding is only coming from our pockets.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, hey, John, if someone was just going to give me loads of money in a TV show and I could just go out there, I'll say anything, for that funding person, but I have no one to answer to.
Yeah. Well, it definitely shows. The quality is there. I said this privately, but I'll say it publicly because I do want to encourage the listeners that are listening in right now to tune in to that. The way that Tim and I met was that I tracked him down on Facebook just to compliment him on the production value of some of the videos that I saw, and I had seen a couple of them. And a lot of the quote unquote UFO channels out there, which probably aren't which none of them have the blue check, but aren't recognized like you guys have been, is that they steal other things, do no original work whatsoever, which is what you guys are doing. So that's why I wanted to bring you on and want to recommend to everybody, definitely tune into that channel because the production value definitely shows. Now, before we get into Area 51, which is why I wanted to bring you in, I did want to go back towards the beginning of the interview. You had talked about a spherical object that you guys had captured out there doing one of your sky watches. Just to kind of finalize that story, because you gave the description, did you ever figure out what that object was, or to this day does that remain unidentified?
That remains unidentified. I was able to talk to, I would just say like a higher up at Edwards Air Force Base, mm-hmm. Because mostly I was alerting them. So I did send the pictures and information to the local Air Force Base in case it is some type of foreign craft. But it still remains unexplained. But it doesn't mean I jump to a conclusion that, hey, this thing is alien in origin. I mean, of course, if we were going to say what it is, I believe UFOs exist. There's one in that picture. Mm-hmm. But where it come from, nobody knows. And if people want to look up something interesting, I highly advise them to look up this ICBM killer device. It was invented by Japan and one of our private contractors, and it's a little tic-tac shaped object about 5 to 10 feet in length. It looks like a little tic-tac. And there's video on YouTube that's from 2004 to 2008. And this video shows this little tic-tac inside of a net, full encapsulated net on every side. And this little tic-tac shaped object actually has miniature jets on it, just like a satellite in orbit. and it has 20 to 30 little jets that point in every direction, and this little tic tac can point itself in any direction. Okay, the tic tac is laying flat on a net, and inside of this research facility, the tic tac lifts off the net and is perfectly horizontal, like a little cigar shaped object, and it can move left, right, it can rotate, it can stand up on one end, it can go straight up as it's pointed or standing up on an end. And because they used autonomous software and use the same principles of flying objects in space to create this ICBM killer that could go in an oxygen atmosphere, then into space and fly the same way, but just radically move in any direction to intercept missiles. And that's what I mean when we're talking about educating the public about this topic in a serious matter, that we're giving them relevant information. And I it's important to note there's serious organizations, and then there's other people who are in it for like entertainment value, or maybe they want to be famous, or maybe they just fell into it and that's what it turned into and that's how it's perceived. But for us, in the way we approach it, and it's not degrading of anyone else, and it's not meant to be that way. That's just how it's perceived by others because of its success. But it's just our goal to be a serious organization who goes out and sky watches. And that's it. It's not to be a definitive voice on what is or what isn't.
Just for clarity's sake on because obviously you've already stated that the UFO phenomenon is real. I mean, obviously there's unidentified objects. What they are is a question mark. Just for clarity's sake, do you have a stance on whether or not any of them are alien related, or have you yet to see any evidence whatsoever to support that? Like, where do you stand?
Yeah, I have yet to see any evidence of aliens visiting Earth. I have yet to see anything. Of all the people I've met, out of all the places I've gone, Area 51 included, that would be my position. And that's where we came from, was just a middle of the road position. Hey, we're serious people doing real work out there in the field, trying to reach a conclusion. And if people want a conclusion, that's just my stance. But, I really impress on people not to take my position as their position. They should be looking to experts to help guide them in a direction. So I offer my opinion from my experience to be a leader for them. So if they have questions about other things, they have a place to come.
Let's talk about Area 51 now. Obviously, you've been out there. This is why I wanted to bring you on. There is this cockamamie idea that started as a joke, but I think there's at least a handful of people anyway, out of the 1.6 million people that have quote unquote said they're going. Whether or not that number is even remotely close to being true, who knows? But let's just say, for discussion's sake, that there is a fraction of that number that are thinking that they're going to do this. Let's talk about your experiences out there. When was the first time that you decided, hey, I'm going to go out to this, secret base and see how close I can get, or what kind of pictures I can get? Talk to us a little bit about your first time.
I don't know. You just said it. That's like seriously how it happened. It was that Mac Adventures guys on the motorcycles when they ran into the guards who pulled the gun.
Okay.
And me and Tracy were super interested to know if that video was real. I mean, and I think it's just because of the inherent nature of the way YouTube monetizes its content that it almost like benefits someone who just generates videos. So sometimes there's always that thing in the back of your head and you don't know if it's true. So that was our perspective. Hey, let's go out there. Let's see what happens.
So you're saying people fake UFO related videos?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
honestly, John.
Especially on YouTube. That can't be. If it's on the internet, Tim, it has to be true.
Right. But let me be the first to say I was that guy. I mean, I honestly believed it all. There wasn't something I could watch that made me not believe. Everything was real to me. And I think it's one of the reasons why I've become the way I am on social media, or when giving my opinions on things, because I believed it more than anybody. And in fact, I would have considered some of these people like heroes. And so, hopefully that just gives people perspective of my work in the field. I think it's just more sad than anything, to be honest.
So
I had no idea. I literally had no idea, John.
Yeah, let me jump in though. So what you're saying is you've kind of transformed the way you believe. Like, did you go from and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have heard this wrong, but so you kind of went more of the believer to then you went into the field and realized, hey, some of these people are just full of it. Is that a trend? Like, is that your transition?
Correct.
Okay.
I would almost say that 100%. I believed it all, man. I thought, every pyramid from the past was made by aliens. I thought the stones were shaped by alien hand tools. I was the type that would never give a human being credit, for these major advances that had happened. I mean, who's not to say that in a debate about ancient structures, that those things were created by advanced humans, and there's huge natural disasters that occur in minutes that destroy the whole earth, and things kind of revert. And the only thing left was this huge stone structures. I mean, that's probably why there's only stone structures left, due to super volcanoes, huge asteroid impacts, huge earthquakes, tsunamis. People have no idea. I mean, in Alaska, they talk about 300-foot tsunamis when they have huge landslides. Mm-hmm. I just really think that because humans have such a short lifespan, that we don't see these huge natural disasters, and we don't really put it into perspective. To be honest, like in a kind of to go off the rails, I mean, I wouldn't say something's crazy to say that humans have reached a point like this maybe 4, 5, or 6 times where they've advanced in a technological way, and then an ice age comes or something strange happens. And I think that a lot of debate on that theory, because if we're having a serious debate like we're at a college and we're trying to talk about all points of view, we cannot approach these topics singularly promoting aliens. Yeah, it has to include all people's positions and all points of view. I mean, there was even a scientist out there who was talking about electrical storms creating certain things that we see in life, like lightning strikes that happen that are gigantic, like gigantic lightning strikes that change the surface of the earth, or you have huge earthquakes like we just had here a couple of weeks ago where we were rocking and shaking, that crack the earth open and things change. I think, like I said, we just have such short lifespans that we don't see those big things. And also, I think it is extremely important to not take God out of the equation. I mean, who's to say that these things or these lights or what people are seeing in the sky isn't some type of gods, whatever you think that is, even in a religious form? To be honest, John, I'm a Christian. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time I've ever said it to anyone in the UFO world. Okay, I'm a Christian myself, and I find no problem reading the Bible every day. I studied theology for 6 years. I seriously love the Bible, John. I read it all the time, and it's helped my life more than I can say. But I think in the UFO topic, that debate over a God, whoever God it is, if you want to say that those things are just coming to watch us. Maybe it's the thing that created us. Maybe God had to use a computer simulation to create his creation, and this is what it looks like on the inside. So when something phases in, you can't explain it because there is no explanation, because you could never explain it. You couldn't even put it into perspective because we're so small in comparison to the design, or maybe it's aliens. I mean, I can't fathom why our genetic code would have an organized code and be random. That just, to me, it makes no sense. You don't get order from randomness. So just the fact they were able to discover the DNA code, they could modify the code itself. We understand computer coding and can send these signals through the internet that we can't even see. So these things, these things that have order, I don't think come from randomness. So there's something there, something created them. If you want to say it's a gray alien from another planet, that's fine. If you want to say it's Jesus Christ from the Bible, that's fine. If you want to say that, it's just evolution, that's fine too. But I think a lot of the times in the UFO community, all of those things drop, and it's literally just the gray alien from Zeta Reticuli, who did this.
I want to take you back to that because, I mean, that's just such a deep topic, and one that I mean, that's a show in itself, to be honest with you, when it comes to the connections between spirituality, religion, gods, and, so on. But I want to take you back then to that transition from yourself of believing everything that you saw on the internet to then questioning and realizing that not everything is what it seems. That you saw this video on Area 51 and wondered if it was true, whether or not those, camo dudes will pull a gun on you. So
exactly.
Let me bring you back to that story. So did you go out then to, again, essentially debunk that notion, or were you thinking, hey, these guys are pulling guns, let me be on the receiving end to make a cool video? I mean, how really did that unfold for you?
No, it unfolded because growing up near highly restricted military facilities, and then also Tracy and I had spent so much time at Edwards Air Force Base. I mean, seriously, I know people there I thought I never would have met. And I meet them on the outside. I don't meet them on the inside. I don't ever talk about them. I don't ever talk about information they give me. But I think it was just from our experiences of being around Edwards, which actually administers Area 51. And a lot of that gets left out because Area 51 is administered from the north base of Edwards Air Force Base. That's like where administration is. And let's say you were gonna fly at Area 51, that's where you would go. And so being around Edwards, the security is way more lax than it is at Area 51. Even China Lake, Fort Irwin, the electronics combat range for China Lake, Vandenberg, which we've gone to and gone on base, Lemoore Naval Air Station, we've gone there and gone on base. These places have nothing on Area 51. There are not dudes cruising around that hardcore. The only place we've ever been like that in this area is Plant 42. Plant 42 has the same kind of military police cruising around the perimeter, ready, to come push you away or call the sheriff, and the sheriff will come get you. You're not supposed to be loitering around the military perimeters. And so it was just kind of that experience where we hadn't really seen something that extreme. We were like, I don't even know if that's true. And that was from already us having experience out in the field. So, and once we got there, it's deadly serious. It's scary serious. I mean, I can't count how many times someone has told me, hey, I'm going, we're going to go to Area 51 and they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And the second they get there, there's military security with AR-15s. And so it ends really fast. It turns from, a joke into deathly serious. I mean, not to mention to criminal penalty to be filming military installations. So, there's a real delicate balance. And I really want people to know in our videos, we would follow similar techniques. I mean, I downloaded the social media restrictions for the military and follow similar parameters about not disclosing assets, not showing security entrances. That's why we didn't show the other gate. That's not popular. When you're going to Area 51 and you drive up that dirt road and you come to the little sign where it doesn't say pass, right? That's not the real gate. And the reason we don't show the real gate is because we don't want a terrorist to go there and see the real gate. Every video we've done on Edwards Air Force Base, we have never shown the front gate, and I never have in anything, and we don't show where employees are originating from. We don't show employee transportation or aircraft entering the facility, which runways it goes on. So, it's a real delicate balance and respecting it. And that was the main driver for us putting UFO seekers on our vehicle, was to let the military or police know that was our intention, is to be there. We're sky watching and looking for these things that people say exist. I mean, I've had a UFO experience myself when I was young. I mean, lots of people have had UFO experiences. So it's about trying to find explanations. And I think there is a respect for that. Of course, half people laugh at us. The police always laugh. But they're always nice. We've never, so we have that UFO seekers thing on there to designate what we're doing, and that we take it serious.
Did you end up having a run-in with what we know as the camo dudes out there, the security operatives?
Yeah, and that was in the second video we did on Area 51. We decided to camp right near the entrance, like the closest campsite on Groom Lake Road, and set up all of our equipment to do a night sky watch and then into the morning. And so we arrived at night, and we feel that's best. I mean, the military knows everything you're doing, so you've got to have some element of surprise too. You can't just let them know. So we arrived in the middle of the night, set up our campsite, did sky watching, saw lots of, I guess, what you could consider satellites or space type objects moving. But then in the morning, we caught a little glimpse of a Janet flight flying through a canyon, a little blurry shot. We did capture 3 jets dogfighting with a third object, which we didn't know what it was. More than likely just a drone.
Yeah, but that's pretty fascinating, though.
Oh, it is, for sure. And we're huge aviation buffs, so we love that stuff too, and have lots of respect for the development of it. I mean, that's what my dad did, worked inside of wings, doing electrical engineering. So it was later in that day, the camo guys come, when we camped on that campsite, they come every hour, on the hour, pretty much. So we're camped there. We have our tripod set up. It's dark. They come. They flash their lights at you. They like to make dust around you, make you feel uncomfortable. But then once it got into the daytime, a pair of camo dudes came out. They were stopped on the road. They took out what I could tell were some type of like infrared binoculars and were watching us. And that's because I had a camera on them and I was actually looking at them up close. And then over the scanner, we heard a sheriff on the scanner. And in my video, I said we heard them call the sheriff, and I actually misspoke. We actually heard the sheriff coming towards our location, right? Because the camo dudes are using encrypted communications through SATCOM, so you wouldn't actually be able to capture that unless you de-encrypted it. So we heard the sheriff coming, so we packed up, and like true to form, man, they called the sheriff on us, and we were just 100% lucky that day, because that guy, the sheriff, was a young new guy from a different town up north, like Elko, I think it was, and had never worked Area 51. So we leave the campsite and we pull onto Groom Lake Road. We decide to head to the entrance real quick. So we start driving towards the entrance, and I started going fast, like the speed limit or a little more. Well, this sheriff was driving like 100 on the dirt road, so I could see this huge cloud behind us. So about halfway to the front entrance, the sheriff finally gets up behind us. And right before he got up behind us, I just pulled off. And that's kind of the way I am, with these guys. I'm not going to fool around and make them put their lights on. I'll just pull off and wait for him. So I pull off. He pulls up and says, "Hey, I got a call. You guys were camping out here." Tracy asked him if that was a problem, us camping there. And that kind of like stunned him a little bit, like tripped him up. But he was really nice. He asked us to get out of the car. I got out of the car, no problem. We don't want any problems with anybody at all. And I think he took it with as much humor as we took it, because he had never been there and he didn't understand the seriousness. Because after that occurred, the camo guys came by, drove in their truck. Both of us like waved to the camo guys, who had the weirdest look on their face, like stunned look, because I think they thought the sheriff would take our equipment. But the sheriff was actually like really nice, man, and just told us to be careful, gave us some advice. Luckily for us, we didn't have a drone. If we had a drone, our equipment would be gone. And trust me, those guys have the right to take any of your things. I mean, if you point a camera towards that military base, you better be willing to hand your camera over to the military base. And they're going to go through it and do whatever, and you're lucky if you get it back. So we didn't have a drone that day. So I think we got really lucky. And I would advise anybody, just don't take a drone past the black mailbox. If you're going to fly a drone out there, there are areas in Lincoln County where it is totally okay. You can fly it by the black mailbox, or by like Rachel, where the little alien inn is. But you have to be aware that there's low-level flying aircraft out there too. So we've been camping like right off the extraterrestrial highway. That's in our video called UFO Hunting at Area 51. I show you where the campsite is. You can kind of overlook the Groom Lake entrance, and you're a little higher up, so you can get a good view of the mountain behind where Area 51 would be. And we had aircraft fly super low over us right there on Highway 375, the extraterrestrial highway. So, there are reasons why they don't want the drones out there too. But people should be aware of this. I mean, you're flying a drone. The drone has a radio communication device and is sending the radio frequency back to your controller. They're getting that. They have receiving devices there and are receiving every radio signal or communication that you're putting out. So if you fly a drone there and think they can't see you, trust me, they're in their facility watching it. I know for a fact that these facilities have identifying infrared equipment that can know your car. So the second you even drive near one of these facilities, these devices autonomously recognize who you are and when you've been there, what you're doing. And don't be surprised to know that they also go into your cell phone. So if you take a cell phone with you, they're going to listen to you. So make sure if you go to Area 51, okay, you can't have your cell phone on, or I wouldn't even take it. Personally, we don't even take it no more. And that was because Area 51 was the only place we go where our phones turn on. So when we go to Area 51 and we have our devices, mobile devices turned off, those devices turn on by themselves. So it's scary, man.
When you hear about, again, it started as a joke. I talked a little bit about it before I brought you on, Tim, about this Facebook event where people are going to go. When you hear that these people that again don't care that it started as a joke, that they really are going to go out there and they're going to try this idea of storming Area 51. What do you think when you hear that?
Yeah, I think it's scary, man. I mean, just think about it. Just the employees of the base get followed around by YouTubers. Mm-hmm. Like, seriously, they can't even go to work without having someone there, like, ready to film and expose something that simple. So I think people who work at this particular facility are already on edge as it is. Why couldn't they just name it something else? I don't necessarily agree with that. Hey, it is a joke. It's, they perceive it as funny. I don't. I'm just like the military, because the military doesn't care who you are. In fact, I don't even think if you were at a military perimeter, they would care if you were a citizen or a tourist.
Yeah.
I think they would shoot you no matter which, or, so there are highly sensitive things going in there, not to mention nuclear programs that are happening right behind the mountain there. I have no doubts that there's underground nuclear tests or payloads that exist there, or material. When we were camping there once, we found this quartz rock that was so weirdly melted. It literally looks like a rose, the way this quartz is melted. So
did you test? I'm curious. Did you test it for radiation?
I didn't. That is a great idea.
Yeah.
Because
I
still have it? The rock and a Geiger counter. Yeah, I totally do.
Oh man, I hope you don't get a third arm coming out your back or something like that. Yeah, I would definitely check that. And the reason why I ask you about this event is again, I know that it started as a joke, and a lot of people do operate that it is a joke. I've been around the block long enough to know that regardless of something starting as a joke, there are going to be a number of people that will show up. And this week, it's now kind of unfolding that they're going to have bands out there that they're clearing. I guess one of the owners out there is clearing 30 acres for people to camp. So regardless of this starting as a joke, there is a huge setup process going on that these people are going to descend onto the desert. And in this day and age, there are some idiots that are probably going to just try and either fly a drone as far as they can go to see what happens, or they're going to, get on a 4-wheel drive vehicle and just gun it and see what happens. So when you really think of it that way, that it sounds like you are well aware it was a joke, but do you think that there are going to be idiots that are just going to try and 4-wheel drive it past the signs?
Possibly. And I think the more important thing is that someone will be liable, and that's, the people who are talking about it like that will be liable if something happens. Mm-hmm. But hey, if they got permits and that's what they're going to do, at least it shows that, again, It was never about aliens. It was just about having a party. And this is the rational or the rational thinking I'm trying to help bring that has kind of been lost and abandoned by a lot of leaders in this community, is to be a lot more rational about this. But you know what? I 100% support it. I think it's so cool. It's great to have an event. I mean, we thought about how great it would be to have an event with people. And the best part about it, they're going to realize how boring it is. And the second best part, they're not going to see an alien. And the third best part, they're not going to see an alien UFO. And they're going to start questioning why people have been telling them for so many years that they could just go to Area 51 and see these things. And I think if people read Glenn Campbell's Area 51 travel guide from the mid-90s, we are almost like Glenn Campbell version 2. Glenn Campbell could go through this same logical thinking and the same conversation and debate we're having right now about which days to go, what are they flying there. Glenn Campbell spent 2 years there looking for it, and he couldn't find it either. And so this event is about a military base. And if there's only airplanes in there, it's about aircraft, So, I mean, if the military has alien technology or alien craft, I hardly doubt they're going to hide it inside of the most visible place now. I mean, there's 100, 1,000 more military facilities that are way more low key than this. And the military doesn't even operate out of public facilities like that sometimes. So, for instance, here in Bakersfield, we did a video back in the 50s. Lockheed Martin was building the U-2 spy plane for 2 years. They were building the foundational parts here in Bakersfield, and they'd build the parts inside of this building located on Norris Boulevard. It's still there. Lockheed Martin had a event there to commemorate the secret operation that occurred there in the 1950s, just a couple years ago. But they would actually build the parts for the U-2 spy plane, put them in an aircraft here at our local field, Meadows Field, which I've shown people in our video, and they'd fly them to Area 51 and assemble the spy craft at Area 51. So there's a perfect example of how the military, through the private contractors, are hiding in these secret buildings right in front of your face. So you don't have to go drive into the middle of the desert to go find this stuff. It literally may be right in your own community.
What advice would you have for people in the last couple minutes I have with you? What advice would you have for those that are in the last year, 2 years, getting very passionate about the UFO topic? We talked about the storming Area 51. That's just a silly, a silly thing. So hopefully nothing really bad happens.
It's a party, man. It's a party.
Well, it's turning into a party. I mean, I don't think that the original person that, at least it doesn't sound like it, the original person that posted it intended that way. I think people are trying to capitalize on it. And that's, I guess sad in a way, but regardless, the people that genuinely are passionate about UFOs and they want to do more, they want boots, they want their boots on the ground. Right. They see you and they're influenced by you. What advice do you have for them on how to handle that passion and what should they do?
Right. I'd say like the best thing is probably to call their local MUFON chapter and join MUFON as a field investigator. It's like dangerous going out into the middle of nowhere all the time. And so I have like extensive experience. I actually grew up in automotive racing. I worked for Pirelli of North America as like a tire engineer. I was a crew chief. I worked in off-road racing. My dad was a co-driver for Justin Lofton, who races in NASCAR trucks. So I grew up around a bunch of different aspects of life that have given me the experience to like traverse out alone. To be between not getting stranded, between having to hike, between being like in good shape, being good mentally and grounded, taking care of myself, having survival equipment, taking extra food with me. Okay. And we haven't even gotten to the equipment, buying equipment, knowing about equipment, which video formats, which cameras take the best pictures, having the right computers, editing softwares, understanding how to run social media content. So what we're doing can be extremely difficult alone, and we are alone. It's just me and Tracy. So people, the best way to go about it is to join the local MUFON chapter. Look, I have major disagreements with MUFON leadership, the event coordinators, because that's all they do now is host events. Okay, but that's not reflective of the local chapters or the different state chapters, because a lot of people don't know that each state is actually like its own nonprofit entity. So like each state can actually take in its own donations, or you can donate to like the main MUFON organization. So supporting your local chapter and getting out with them, because you can start doing weekends, getting reports from individuals, and that's important, because when I doing this myself, I received all the reports. So I didn't have to have like a MUFON around me to get the reports, to meet the witnesses or have conversations, talk to thousands of people, John, thousands of people, to hear their stories so I can get a perspective, and then spend the time at the locations to give me more perspectives. And MUFON's the perfect place. I mean, they'll give you locations to visit. You can actually go with other people, so it's a lot safer for traveling, or if you got to hike out into a desolate area. Shoot, man, I wish I would have, but I never had the chance. My life was just completely random, and this is how it ended up. So
the website is www.ufoseekers.com. I highly recommend everyone to subscribe to the channel and check out those videos, because they really are informative. And like Tim said, there's a lot that can be explained, but periodically and rarely you do capture something that can't. So, Tim, I really do want to say thank you for taking the time to come on the radio here and explain to everybody your background and your expertise. And hopefully everybody will be careful on this event if they do go out there and have it in their head to do something stupid. They aren't probably not going to get far. But I do appreciate.
Right, but they should know. Let me. I almost forgot to say this, John. Sure. I wanted to say it so bad in the show. Okay. One of the reasons we were so naive when Tracy and I first started is because we thought we could see them. You cannot see the military. Okay, the military has F-35s that can straight take off from the ground and hover in midair. They have heads-up displays. They can probably go to about 80,000 feet, because I don't think they actually give us the top altitude of these military aircraft. And these aircraft, the F-35s, also the F-22s at Area 51, have paint schemes, and you cannot see them in the air. So every time we go to Area 51, we will hear a propeller-type aircraft in the air. So it's got to be a drone. And we think that they fly equipment up there, and you can't even see it. You can just barely hear it. And they can see you perfect with their long-range FLIR cameras, infrared cameras. So trust me, if you're out at the desert, you're near the border of that military perimeter, I promise you, they can see you, whether it's from up in the air or just some type of hidden camera that they have hidden on one of the mountains. So people should just be really careful, respect the military security and those people, and know that they're just regular people like you, trying to do a job. You may disagree with like the leadership or secrets that are hidden, but I really think that you should have perspective on who those people are, their families, and what they're doing to protect the national defense of our country. That's good advice. I hope people heed it, but I will be chomping on some popcorn come, September. There you go. We'll see what happens. Right. Tim, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. You take care, John. Thank you. All right, and you too. And thank you all for listening. This is John Greenewald Jr. signing off. We'll see you next time.